Should add there's a lot more interaction on the hub than I could present forward, so Alan, please do continue the conversation online. I think there'd be quite an interesting dialogue. It's also my pleasure to present the next speaker from the Datalab at the BBC, talking very close actually to the keynote in terms of what do we want to make sure in terms of democratic values, but what does that look like under the hood of a news organization of that size. So please do take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope the previous talk didn't make you very hungry, so you can stay here a little bit longer to make it through the session. So I'm Christina. Hello, everyone. I'm a data scientist at the BBC. And the work I'm going to present today is a joint work with my colleagues, Sheng, Felix, Mercer, and Alessandro, Piscopo. They are attending online, so I'm sure you have the chance to meet them as well. So I'm going to walk you through on how we are building recommender systems at the BBC, some of the challenges that we are having, our solutions, and some of the lessons that we learned along that way. So a little bit about the BBC. First of all, I'm sure you are familiar with the organization. It's one of the largest public service broadcasters in the world, serving people around the UK and around the world. One thing I would like to actually draw your attention about the BBC is its editorial guidelines. So those are BBC's values and standards, and they apply to all of our content, wherever and however this is received. So this is things like truth and accuracy, impartiality and fairness. Our editorial team, but also teams like us, data scientists, need to comply with those because they actually serve content, provide content, and so on. So BBC operates at a very big scale. Right? It reaches more than 90% of the UK population and more than 400 million people in a weekly basis all around the world. So I'm sure you're now wondering, how does the BBC serve this audience? How does it make sure that it delivers a personalized experience that actually is useful to every single user? So far, BBC has competitors like small broadcasters, but now we have tech giants that they have much more capacity and resources than the BBC has. So to tackle this challenge, actually BBC put together a team, and the team that I'm part of, it's called Datalab. It's a multidisciplinary team, and we have data scientists, engineers, people with different expertise. And what we are doing is we are building machine learning services. We have a focus on recommender systems, and we are building those for different BBC products, like news, sports, sounds, etc. So around 4 years ago, Datalab embarked on this mission to help BBC stay relevant in this modern media landscape through personalization at scale. Of course, this journey didn't come without challenges, so we mainly have 3 categories of challenges while building our recommender systems. We have cultural, organizational, and infrastructural, and I'm going to talk a bit about those and the solutions we are using to tackle those challenges. First of all, we have our cultural challenges. And this is mainly about a change of perspective. So how do we shift from manual curations, editorially curated recommendations, to data-driven ones, and at the same time keeping the quality of our domain experts and doing that at scale? Our answer to this challenge is actually join forces, join people with different expertise. I'm sure if you worked in teams that have people with different expertise, you will appreciate the value of having those around. So in our case, along with our data people that are actually developing the technical services, the technical solutions, we also have product people that shape our direction. We have editorial to ensure that our services are complying with the BBC values, and UX people that make sure the user experience is considered from the earlier stages. And that proved to be very beneficial on doing things. Next, we have our organizational challenges. In this case, we have a bit more about the practical issues that we are having while building recommenders. How do we actually translate our public service value into metrics? How do we make sure that we maintain the editorial standards while doing that? One would simply say, let's optimize for our editorial guidelines. But that's not very easy, as you can imagine. There is no clearly defined optimization function that we can use to actually incorporate those into our algorithms. It's very hard to measure things and also to pick metrics, because sometimes they are also conflicting between them. So what we are doing is we are trying to collaborate with editorial people actively, and we are building some tools to facilitate this engagement with them. A bit more specifically, what we are doing is that we make sure that we keep this loop between data scientists and editorial people. So our editors have the domain expertise. They know the data and its inconsistencies, and they also can provide insight about what a good recommendation looks like. So this insight is very helpful. So every time we are reading something, we make sure that we present some sample recommendations to them. They are able to evaluate them. We gather feedback, and then we are able to adjust our models. So it's not only about data and algorithms, but also incorporating this knowledge very actively into this loop. A tool that we built to do that is this. You can see an example here from BBC News. We have a seed article that we present to our editors, and then they have a scale from unacceptable to appropriate, and then can evaluate the recommendations. We can present them with different models, different versions. They are able to evaluate it. We gather then this feedback, and we judge how can we move forward after that. Another example, this is from BBC Sounds, which is actually the player for podcasts and music mixes. In order to evaluate podcast recommendations, we have a similar interface. Underneath, you can see a list of recommendations. Our editors can, again, judge how these recommendations look like from an editorial perspective, whether it can be actually offered to the audience, can it go in front of the audience, and then from the user perspective, whether they would consume this product as a user or not, this recommendation. Another thing that we are finding very useful, and we are incorporating that within our processes, is our machine learning engine principles. We are very confident about those. We developed this set of principles within our team to make sure that we are doing machine learning responsibly and correctly. This is accompanied by a checklist. You can see an example here. It includes things like checking for privacy in the data, checking about how transparent the model is, and things like that. It's a self-audit process for our practitioners, and we actually prompt them to incorporate this into their workflow so they can make sure that they are aligned with the values. Last but not least, we have our infrastructural challenges. The BBC obviously has lots of products, like news and sports. And because of that, we also have a lot of data, user interactions, metadata, text data. But sometimes these different data sources actually sit within different business units, and they are in different places, different locations. So this is very challenging for us as data scientists, that we need to use them as quickly as possible and as efficient as possible. So our aim is to actually build a platform that brings together all these various data sources and actually allows us to scale up our recommendation services in both, in terms of both number of products, but also number of users. So we started building this platform, and the first thing that we built is this data lake. This brings together all the various data sources, and also make sure that we keep issues there like sensitivity issues and privacy issues and things like that. And as data scientists, we are able to grab a combination of these different data sources and build recommenders on top of that. And we can do that in experimentation phase, but also in production. On top of that, we also have a serving layer, and this is very important because we need to actually integrate different recommenders for different products of the BBC. And having this universal standard in terms of serving helps us a lot to facilitate things. So we talked a lot about our challenges and our solutions, and now I just want to highlight what lessons we learned along the way. Fast iteration is the first one. So we learned that by failing fast, we learn fast. So every time we're doing something, we start very simple, we evaluate it, and we repeat it until we arrive to a result that is really satisfactory. We find that very valuable because we can improve the quality of our machine learning services by doing that, and we are also building our team capabilities and our team confidence. The second is people are our key asset. You will be impressed on how valuable we realize that people are within our organization. So we include at every stage product, editorial, and data people, because all these different experience helps us build better products. We have complex objectives, so different angles are always appreciated, and we're making sure that all voices are heard. That's why we learned that diversity is very essential on what we are doing, because after all, we are serving recommenders that speak to diverse audiences. And last, we also realized how important it is to integrate data-driven and editorial-driven approaches. We leverage the power of data, we leverage the power of our editors and their domain expertise, and that's how we make sure that we build smarter products, more intelligent products that can serve better our audiences. That was it, that's our journey. These are some of the live recommenders that we have now in front of the audiences. Of course, this is just the start. We have much more to explore, much more to learn, and we're looking forward to that. Thank you very much for your attention, and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of activity again on the hub. To summarize a couple of the questions, how do you actually incorporate the feedback from the editorial team in the development of the content? And is it a one-way street, or is it actually a two-way street?
Yes, so this is a process that takes long. So what we are doing is that we are trying to understand first what is their interpretation of their values, of the BBC values. And then we're trying to actually translate those to data and features. So, for example, if one of the aims of sport recommendations, let's see, is having different, news about different teams of an area, then we are making sure that we're creating features about location, about which team is rival with which, and things like that, and then we are able to tweak our algorithms according to their preferences. So that's one way. We have these tools that they are able to evaluate things, and then we can gather implicit, let's say, feedback in one sense, because we can see what are the trends when they evaluate things. So there are different ways. We just keep going creative to make it.
So both training the models, but also which features and parameters go into the models, if I understand this correctly. There was also the question, does it go the other way? So does the data team give input to the editorial team, for example, if something is trending or current, that it might be more valuable to have a certain type of content?
Yes, definitely. So sometimes we realize that while we are building recommender systems, we are missing some data. So we are going back to the editorial team, and we are trying to actually support them while tagging content and highlight to them how important it is for us to have one data point or the other. And then they are able to improve the quality of our metadata and things like that. So it's definitely a process that is going both ways.
Nice. Maybe to take someone's up for the mic. By the way, I don't know if we're doing this yet, but I think it's helpful to know people's names and where they're from, especially people who aren't in the room. Might be interesting to know who's there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Jan Willem from the Netherlands. I work at a Dutch broadcasting, public broadcasting company. So this is a very interesting topic. And I would like to go on about this editorial influence. Do your editorial users have influence on the models when they are in productions? And if so or not, what are your views on that topic? Should they have influence on the models that are serving things in production?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yes, definitely. I think that is very important if they have influence along the way, because once we serve a model and we put it in production, that doesn't mean that we should just keep it there, unattended, because there are always issues that arise. So definitely their influence should be during the whole process. There are either problems, issues, or if they have influence at that later stage, even if it's in production, then we can take this information and improve our model so we can deploy a better one later on. So yeah, I'm very happy to talk about that later on and get to know your experience as well.
Thank you.
So let's thank Christina again. As before, there's more questions than I can have the time to ask, but I hope the conversation continues.
Thank you.